it feel good?
Yeah, I know I struggle with a similar thing, but it's more I hold right in my lower stomach, and sometimes when I release it, a lot of pain goes there, and that's why I hold, because I don't like it.
Right, of course.
Even though I know intellectually that if I allow the breath to go there, it will help, but in the immediate, it feels worse.
Right. You know, the initial impulse is possibly the one that says, okay, I should release that because something is tight there. Go away from that. You don't need to release. Go to the breath at that moment. And the first step is to ask yourself, can I allow the breath to come and go on its own? And see what happens. Typically, if you're successful in giving the permission to your breath to do whatever it pleases, it will do exactly what is needed to transform that situation and to create or to let these events in your being and your body happen that are necessary to resolve that conflict. And again, you will feel good with it. You know, immediately that sense of well-being, even though the process may not be completed yet. But the whole oneness is giving a signal, yes, this is the right path. And then the sense of feeling good is coming always with the process of the allowing of the breath. It's always connected with it, which is a wonderful thing. So healing in this sense is not like pushing through, you know, a cathartic experience and having pain before it gets better. It immediately actually gives you the sense, yes, something is happening that is on the right path.
Kind of following off of that, when you have like those cathartic moments, sometimes it can get a little bit frustrating when you come back to it the next time, and it's a lot more simple than it was the time before.
Yeah.
And you kind of expect this kind of cathartic, like big, grand, like thing to happen like it did last time.
Yeah.
And in those moments, I find it like kind of difficult to kind of stay open to the breath work. I'm not quite sure where I'm going with this. But just kind of like those cathartic moments, it's kind of difficult to come back to it after a couple times of not having that, which kind of like causes me to shut down a little bit to the breath work.
Okay.
Because you have those big moments.
Can you give me a little more information about what cathartic moment you refer to? Just a little example. Then I can answer it a bit more precise.
I kind of understand what you mean. I found a similar situation when I first was introduced to releasing the sacrum. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's such an opening feeling, like you felt huge, like it was amazing.
Right.
And then the next time, my sacrum was open and I was like, well, it doesn't feel as grand anymore. I think, is that a... Yeah. So I understand. And now I'm used to it and I love it.
Right.
But the one right after, it felt like a little bit of a letdown, shall we say? Yeah.
Okay. I see what you mean. So this moment of like, oh, something is becoming part of the oneness, and when you're more, let's say you have become more one, that it feels like where's the next event, right?
Yeah.
I would suggest to become a bit more receptive and listen a bit more, because in a situation like this, of course the experience is strong and you have that memory or sensory memory or resonates, oh, that was fabulous, it was just good. And the integrated part is as, I would say, spectacular, yes. as this one too. So, but it needs more listening, more receiving. You're not, if you're too much looking for the next event, then you miss that wonderful moment where you can just be and receive and realize how good it feels in this openness to stay in this openness. So, but I understand it totally because particularly at the age that you're in your 20s, I guess, right? Maybe 30.
19.
19, okay. There is vitality. The aspect of vitality is a different one, like our age. I'm not saying there's less, it's just different. And the aspect of vitality is more in the foreground. So you're less likely to go like, okay, yes, I waited, there's the next one coming. So you're interested in the perspective you have from your life is huge, is open. You're curious. What's happening in my life? Where's my life going? Rather than, okay, let's just rest and Nevertheless, it is one of the really precious moments, even at your age, to practice, to become aware that this holds much more of an answer for where your life is going, rather than running out and grabbing the next thing. Maybe just as information about yourself, you want to say a little about yourself, what you're doing, and in what kind of situation in life you are. If you want to, you don't have to, but
well, I'm 19, so not a lot is happening, but I'm working, I'm singing a lot, and I find it super interesting incorporating the aloud breath into the working breath of singing.
Yeah.
It's always going back and forth, having to stop, go back, sensation and all that, and then go into singing. So you're not going into the pause and pulling. And so that is the biggest journey I'm on right now, is finding the aloud breath and singing.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Very nice. I'm looking forward to hear you sing.
I'm 21. I'm an actor, and kind of at the stage of my life right now, I just graduated school, and I just got an agent, and it's kind of trying to find that little bit of drive now that you've hit that milestone of starting.
Yes.
Like keeping the drive going to fight for the next thing, and just waiting for that next thing to come, which kind of fits with the breath.
Yeah.
So, like, sometimes it's just like sitting there and you're like, when's the phone gonna ring? And you kind of start to close off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I start to close off.
Yeah.
And kind of keeping with the breath, because sometimes I'll realize it, either if I'm singing in the shower, or if I'm just like walking around the house or trying to write. Like, if I'm having like a mental block, I'll really start to realize how shut off I am from reading, because it'll just be like me sitting there trying to think really hard. And if I just like sit back and just kind of let things happen for like a couple minutes instead of trying to force something to happen, it'll kind of cause like this ease energy, which kind of gives me more energy just from letting things happen.
Absolutely.
Which is a really interesting thing, going to a calming place and then getting more energy, where you think you would like fall asleep by sitting back.
Yes,
which
exactly.
Is really helpful right now.
Yes, it is. It's wonderful. Yes, so you basically, what I mentioned before with that being more receptive, you realize that, right? How much of a value that state of receptivity can have, and immediately you're connected with your forces at that moment, rather than running after something that where you use up, your energy and your power. Oh, good. Yes. Sensation of the soles of the feet on the floor and sits bones on the platform of the stool, with awareness, sensory awareness of these places where we touch the floor, we can receive the floor, we can let ourselves be carried. I talked about that last Monday, how we're using this to promote and facilitate the trust that we can allow the breath to go on its own. When we accept the fact and reality that I am being carried, there's a trust growing in myself that leads me or stimulates me, promotes my allowing to trust that I really can let things be, and meaning the breath can come and go on its own with that offer of letting myself be carried. So as wonderful as high heels or higher heels are, I love them, we could probably try it with that too, but in this case we have it a little easier, so that's why we're taking our shoes off.
I love having bare feet. Like since I was little, I loved having bare feet on the ground, having that contact, that feel of support. It was really cool, and I guess it's the breath now that I know a little bit more about the breath.
So it is, we all have that in ourselves. Ilse found this work not because she was better than others. She found it because she was interested in what's happening. Like you found that interest in it, it's nice to be barefoot, and it gave you something, you felt like, something is in there. And all these things all these principles that we're working with in the breath experience, they are within each one of us. They're archetypal principles, and each one of us is dealing with these principles a little bit differently. But we can awaken them or bring them back to light, and in this way basically clear our whole self and integrate patterns back into the oneness. Sounds all very simple.
Sounds ideal.
I was going to say, with the sensation of the floor, like when you start the work and you start to discover like the trust and being carried, it's very interesting to take it into a character for acting and like to put on shoes and try and find that same sense wearing your character's shoes. It's like a very interesting type of work because it's like taking the connection to another level. Because you're trying to connect to two different sources at once. And it's a really interesting dialogue that I've come to like love, and it helps me a lot in the work.
Exactly, So you can actually apply that anywhere with any kind of gear, or shoes or whatever you're wearing. It's not about the enveloping what envelops us. It's what's within ourselves. And even though you're playing a character, or also you have particular lines that you have to say, the allowing of the breath, of course when we speak we cannot have the immediate allowing of the breath, otherwise we would speak very differently. But we are learning in our work to realize that the allowing of the breath is part of the oneness, is part of all of these forces in ourselves, the forces that do, the forces that perform, the forces that are patterned, habitual formalities, in daily life, the formalities that we're choosing, standing, meeting, walking. This is all part of our oneness, and that the allowing is becoming inclusive in that oneness, and not either or. And that's the big, learning, or the big learning. That's the learning. Let's not make it too big. It's something that nature wants to. It wants to treat the forces equally, so that they can start to dialogue with each other and not let one stay hierarchically dominant for too long. So typically nature is constantly reshaping, sculpting the forces to maintain the oneness, because there's lots of forces at play. Our own individual forces, then the forces of other people, the greater, space that is full of all of these processes that are there, and in order to find the balance there, we can only find a real balance by allowing our growth. Otherwise, we start to manipulate, or we're starting to adapt, and we go either over or under. And that is not creating good results.